Actually, put them in my fridge for another time. And that was the point when I thought, righto, no one has ever spoken to me like that before. I'm in. Mind you, Simon O'Donnell had come close. Initially, in the summer of 91-92, I hadn't secured a regular place in the Victorian state side and received an offer from New South Wales via Steve Waugh, who was keen for me to join the Blues. I thought about it very seriously, but was put in my place. First by Darren Chuck Berry, who walked me round the Albert Ground, where the Victorian team trained, and told me to get my act together, and then Scuba, who went a stage further. In short, he had me up against a wall and called me a weak bastard for not backing myself in Victoria. He said, "You can piss off to New South Wales if you like, but you're going for the wrong reasons, and mark my words, mate, you'll regret it." Mum and Dad helped convince me to stay too, so that was that. 4 people I rated highly, all making it clear. So, I backed myself to be better than the others in Victoria. Better than blokes like Peter McIntyre and Paul Jackson. Toughen up, I thought, and get into this Victorian cricket team. Which I did. But that was no longer my limit. I suddenly wanted more in a way I had never ever felt before. This was more than my goal or an ambition now. It was even more than a desire. It had become a form of desperation, and I was determined to do whatever it took to make it and not fail. The thing was that I didn't know how to manage it. Thankfully, Terry Jenner did. Bring on the instigator. "Okay, mate, can we start tomorrow?" I asked him. He said, "No way, Shane. We start now, here. Let's talk." That's what we did until midnight, about everything that had happened to me so far, from club cricket and the academy to playing for Australia, and everything we needed to do going forward. About the history of the game, about the greats and their achievements, about pitches and places and umpires and the laws and captaincy and fielding positions. Then we crashed out and slept till the sun came up and my new life started. I climbed off the couch, and for the first time since I'd started smoking full on when I was 16, I didn't light a cigarette that morning. Then I went for a long, hard run. Well, sort of. It didn't turn out that long or that far. Geez, I was unfit. When I got back, TJ was awake and he said, "Oh, right, you've been for a run. That's progress already." Then we sat down and he listed a bunch of former players. Most I hadn't heard of, and the rest I didn't know much about. He asked me a heap of questions about them. I was clueless. So TJ made me watch old footage of a lot of the greats. People like Arthur Maley and Clary Grimmett. He said, "Test cricket didn't start in 1991-92 when you got a game, mate. We've got 120 years to catch up on." I'd driven from Melbourne to Terry Jenner's house in Adelaide with the idea of surprising him and spending a couple of days picking his brains. I stayed for 6 weeks. The gist of our first conversations and practical experiments was this. "Shane, you bowl nicely and rip your leg spinners. You bowl your wrong uns and your straight ones, and you've got an unbelievable flipper. You can also catch well and bat too. You've got the toys, mate, but you don't know how to use them. In other words, you don't know how to get people out." I said, "What do you mean?" "You need to learn what, when, and why." "I don't understand." "What you were bowling, when you were bowling it, and why you were bowling it." "Yes, I sort of get that. You don't just bowl a wrong un because you haven't bowled one for 10 balls, and you don't bowl a wrong un because a new batsman comes in and you want to make him look a fool. You don't bowl a flipper because you hadn't bowled one for 2 overs. For a flipper to really work, you have to plan its disguise, and to do that, you have to set up the batsman with a faster leg break. The idea is to push the batsman back and then strike for LBW or bowled. You want them looking to cut or pull. In other words, you want them back in the crease, and it takes time, patience and strategy to push them back. Big leg break, small leg break, any of the varieties. Think tactics and strategy. There was more, much more. At the moment, there are a few things you haven't got. Like, you haven't really got a top spinner, which is an overspinner that people mistake for a wrong un. You haven't got a high-bouncing leggy. You haven't got the mastery of side spin and overspin yet. You've got a great natural leggy, although it needs to be more consistent. You have a decent wrong un and an outstanding flipper, but you need that overspinner and a slider, and you need to conquer the various types of delivery and levels of spin. Above all, you'll need to learn patience in order to execute these plans.